We are between two worlds now.
Between two actors.
Without further ado, let me introduce two of the denizens of Twin Peaks here, James Hurley and Bobby Briggs, James Marshall and Dana Ashbrook. Thank you fellas for coming on out. I'm going to go ahead and get the conversation started. Obviously, I'm assuming most of y'all will have Twin Peaks questions. However, I'm assuming a few good men, Gladiators, Axwork, Return of the Living Dead, those are all.
Dawson's Creek.
And I will ask Dawson's Creek questions if you don't answer, so that should be incentive enough. But yeah, let's at first talk about where we are with an update with the Showtime show. I guess the most recent news is that it's looking like 2017 now. I realize there's certain things you can't talk about. I'm sure you can't bring out a page of the script and tell us what's happening in certain scenes. But just perhaps an update of where you guys individually stand, if you shot things already, if you're going to in the future.
Oh, sorry. I'm in it. That's what I'm and you know, they're shooting right now. It's a long shoot. It's a huge script. I saw it. It's like a giant script. But I didn't get to read it, but I saw it. And there's a lot of people in it. A lot of people. And it's gonna be good, I think. And like Angela's back, he's doing the music. That's right on. I can say that a lot of crew members from the original show, strangely, were there. Like just people that hadn't even been doing that job for years came out of retirement, and you know, it was really cool, really amazing to see these people again. That's all.
Yeah, same thing. I'm not allowed to say anything, but I guess I'm in it. And, yeah, that's it.
And it seems like the plan currently is to shoot it all and then sort of chop it up and see how it's going to fit?
I believe so.
Are you allowed to?
Not allowed to even say anything like
I'm
that.
not even sure.
Oh,
I just know that
but that sounds like
It sounds like something we might do.
sounds like a smart idea.
All right, well, we got a lot of folks here, so I'm gonna turn it out to the crowd. Just raise your hand, I'll point at you. Oh, there I am.
When you guys were filming the original one all that long time, did you have any clue that there would be something happening in the future later on, or no?
Dana did.
I always knew that. No, I don't think I ever thought ever in a million years he would come back. And that was pretty much going off of what David would always say in interviews that I always saw with him. He was always like, no, never, ever. But I guess, I mean, they were working on it for a while before they announced it. So there was a couple years there where that was happening and no one even knew anything.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot.
Also, Shaq.
Yeah, for Dana, you're probably in one of the most emotional scenes in the entire series where you and the Major in the diner and he tells you about his vision for your future. And I was wondering if you had any recollection or any story about that scene or filming it, how it might have informed your character, or just anything about working with Don.
Yeah, it was a great time, that scene. You know, it was an interesting thing because when I first read the scene, in the script it kind of like said that Bobby was, you know, not really into the story that his dad was telling. And I went and I asked Mark about it because I hadn't seen David, I think, at that point. I asked Mark, I said, so is Bobby not into this? He goes, oh yeah, you know, he doesn't care, it's his dad, he's just dealing with some shit. And I was like, okay. And then when I got there and we were shooting it, actually, David was like, no. It's totally different. It really affects you, and you're gonna cry. It's really gonna be something. And I was really nervous then because all of a sudden it was kind of thrust upon me that I had to do that. And so Don did his side of the coverage first, which was an angle on him. And then when they turned around and they were shooting my side of his reaction, my reaction to his speech, I was supposed to get emotional and it didn't really happen. And then David came in and took Don aside. Don was off camera and he took him and talked to him for like 2 minutes. They had a little secret conversation. They came back and during the scene, while Don's off camera, the camera's not even on him, he started to cry while he was telling me the story. Like he physically started to cry and it made me cry. So seeing him cry made me cry. And so really it was like Don Davis. I mean, it was all him. The guy, he killed it. And I just got like So that's a little story about that scene, but it was a great scene. It was a great time for me. That thing.
I don't know. Thank you.
Trap.
Hi. So that brings up an interesting thing because there are so many directors on the show, and you two both had incredibly consistent performances throughout. How do you do that as an actor? What's the work like when you have this existing character, but there's new people coming up who you may have never met or may not be as familiar with the whole story as you are? What do you do with that information and the existing information? How do you develop it? Whose responsibility is it? For both of you.
It's like, as Dana can probably attest to, there was like so many different directing styles, and if it's not David, it's pretty much you got to commit to the fact that you're gonna, like you just said, you sort of have to uphold your own through line and try to. And I think that a lot of the directors that came in were kind of relying on you to do that a little bit. It was like an unsaid thing, like kind of carry me here. I don't, but they knew what they were doing here and here, but like they were hoping you would, So yeah, it's a good observation. I think basically all the other actors, and that was one of the things too, I think, in David putting the show together like that, is like he created this whole unit of people who literally, once he left, we could all, as far as characters go, not storyline or angles of shots and stuff, obviously, but as far as like he, like you said, it didn't deter. He kept his exact, everybody pretty much stayed honoring their exact rhythms, and they didn't break the character. So other than that, I thought it was a little trying at times because David wasn't there, you know what I mean? But other than that, it was like actually really fun because there were so many different directing styles that it was like, wow, you can see what they're doing with it, that kind of thing. Yeah. Other than that, the consistency, I think, was with the actors. I think they just kept up what they could. And I think David chose that on purpose in a way, just very strong personality types who, not strong, definitive personality types.
Martin?
I concur with James.
Did you ever get lost or confused at any point and you're kind of like, man, I'm really on my own here, or would they kind of help you?
Yeah, but they were always right there. I mean, David was, the second season David was doing other stuff, he was working on the movie too, so he was in and out, but like the writers were always up there, and we could always at least go up to them and say, what the fuck is going on with this? Like, especially when my character started to kind of shift, and they were putting me with Cheryl Lynn's character a little bit, and they were kind of like exploring that for a second, like maybe that, and then they didn't go with it. So it was a weird thing. I didn't understand it. So yeah, you could ask questions and stuff like that, but I didn't know anything back then. I honestly just like got my pages and was happy.
One of the things I love most about the show is that the characters are so complex and believable. There's not really no one's really good or bad, it seems like, in the entire show. Everyone's kind of got their moments where they're like on moral high ground, and then there are moments when it's like, why the hell did you do that? I was wondering if for both of you, is there any instances where your character really surprised you, where an action like stood out that you thought, that kind of shocked you? The character did, I guess.
Well, for me, it was actually in a negative way, sort of. Unfortunately, I thought I was very strong on my character staying with Donna. You know what I mean? And I thought that the through line for that for me was just, for me, important for the integrity of my character, because I thought that he was already so, in a vulnerable sort of emotional place, that here he is on that's what the juxtaposition is, the Harley guy wrote about the article and all that stuff, but at the same time he was very just emotional and very, so it can, and he was with one woman and then he's with the woman's best friend. So that's already treading a thing that it has to, if that keeps happening,
Right.
that can't keep happening. If that happens once, you go,
Changes
wow,
everything.
it's like something, special happened or whatever, and that can happen in life, but when it kept happening, I didn't really like that script. Wait a second, now he's with so-and-so, now he's, I didn't really like, I didn't think it kept the integrity of my character that way. And again, we were in our early 20s, and I was just so jazzed to be working, let alone working on such a, with such talented people and David Lynch and stuff, that I was not going to make waves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said it, I kind of think, do you guys think? And they went, James, I'm okay. So.
Yeah, they just, stuck me with Machen, so.
Yeah.
know, such a drag.
Way in the back. As we all know, this Gathering Golden passed away recently, and I was wondering if either of you had a story or an anecdote that you could share about working with her.
Catherine, man, I'm sure you guys all are David Lynch people, so you know her past with David. I mean, they've been friends since AFI days, and she was a camera operator, or focus puller on Eraserhead, I think, for Fred Elms. I think that's right. She's a great lady, she was like, she was a staple at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. She basically lived there, and it's like every person that goes up there knows who she is, and met her. Every actor that goes through there knows Catherine by the end of it. And she's an amazing actress, and you didn't get to really see much of that with the Log Lady because she didn't get that much to do. But her character was always so great, and she took care of that fucking log, man. She had that thing always with her. I think to the very end, man. I think when she died, they finally got it back. But she took care of that thing. On the plane, she'd always take it up and put it amazing. She was big into that log. I loved her for that. Her daughter lives in New York, in my neighborhood, so I would see her every once in a while when she'd come to New York and we'd have dinner. And she was a great lady. And I was just as blown away the first time I saw the pilot, and she was flipping the light switch, and they're like, "This lady was log, it's the log lady," fascinated as Cooper was. Like, "Oh man, log." So that's my Captain stuff. He has a good one. I don't know.
It's not bad. It's funny. It's just kind of funny. Sorry. I think it was in the middle of the first season, around then. And I didn't know anything about Catherine Coulson's relationship with David Lynch or any of her background. And David asked some of the cast to do obsession ads for they're 2-second little ads because he got an ad campaign for them. And I was like, yeah, of course, whatever, And so I'm doing this obsession ad with him and this really pretty model and stuff. And they're between takes and they're doing a lighting setup, and David, of course, had it was just in this room. That's what was so cool. It was in this room, and it was like just a bed, and I was supposed to be daydreaming about this woman that I'm obsessed with. And so he had this and he was coming up with this all on the go. He goes, no, you know what? It's not enough. It's too blank. We need a trolley car going by. He goes, okay, so they did a cutout of a trolley car and like a Mr. Rogers and shit. It's got the light right here, and they're practicing. So they had the shadow. He goes, okay, do it now. Right when the camera's here, and they had the trolley car shadow go across my face and then go across the room. And every so often you see another because they were trolleys were passing and whatnot. Okay, we got to relight because the shadow's not working. So they relight, and then I'm laying there, and then the camera comes above me and stuff. And they go, we're going to have to get the focus puller in closer to you because she's not going to be able to pull focus where she is, so she's kind of got to straddle you. I go, okay. They go for it, and we're laying back, and all of a sudden, because I didn't know that the focus puller was the log lady. I had no idea, and I didn't see her. They were so closed in on the camera, I didn't know it was her. She was like this, hunched over. So I'm laying there, and all of a sudden she comes over grinning, and she goes, well, here we go, James. And she puts something on, all laughing, going, I'm not married, and you're not married. And she's like, and I go, what the hell are you doing here? I go, the log lady is pulling focus on the commercial. And so we started laughing, and she told me she sat there in between takes in that position telling me her whole story about how David and her met, and it was hysterical, and I even I forgot that we were even in that. But the funniest thing is she's in that position, like I'm laying there, she's in that position today, and we're having this very serious, really, it's just it was funny. So we've always laughed about that memory of that. So I would on the set with her and stuff whenever we'd hang, or if I'd see her at the conventions and stuff, and it was funny as hell because we'd always talk about. Yeah, remember? So that was my log lady story.
First is a technical question. Can you move the podium?
Hey.
What was
was just curious, like, what was it like the first time you met David Lynch? For both of you?
Well, the casting director Joanna Ray knew me from Amazing Stories. She was casting Amazing Stories for Spielberg, and I went and auditioned for that a bunch of times and never got it. And she had my picture in a stack of pictures, and he just was going through her pictures, and they called me in to meet, have a meeting on this show called Northwest Passage. I'd never done any television before, so I didn't know anything about anything. I barely knew who David Lynch was. I just knew him from Eraserhead. It was not Eraserhead, The Elephant Man. And I hadn't seen Eraserhead or Blue Velvet or anything. And so I went in and I read the script, and it was super cool. It was really funny, and it was in there, everything, the silent drape runners and Nadine with the patch on her eye and all that stuff. And I remember finding it so funny, and I was talking to Eric Del Rey, who played Leo. Leo is Joanna Ray, the casting director's son in real life. And he would run the sessions, casting sessions. I always knew him because he would always be like, "Hey Dana, how you doing? Here's the size," or whatever. You'd go into the room. He's the guy that ran it. So he ended up getting cast in Twin Peaks because he was running the sessions. I guess David fell in love with him or whatever. But and Eric and I were rapping before the meeting. He was like, "Man, the lady with the silent drape runners." I was like, "I know, that's amazing." We were laughing about it. And so when I went in, that's what I talked about, the lady with the patch and the silent drape runners. And Mark and David were in there laughing. They were laughing at their own shit. They were just happy that someone else found it funny. And they were kind of like laughing, looking at each other and laughing about it. And we just sat and we talked. It wasn't ever an audition. We just sat and talked about like theater and all sorts of stupid stuff. And that was it. And then I went in one more time to have like a rehearsal, and then I tested, and that was it. And when he tested, James and I tested the same day, which is where you got to go in front of the network executives and all this stuff, and they all sit there and like decide whether they're going to give you a job or not. But usually you have like 3 or 4 other guys that you're up against, and they send one at a time, and then you have to sit there and wait and hang out with all these other guys that are up for your part. But in our case, we were the only guys there for our parts. They only had David wasn't even there for the network test. David had already signed off with whoever. He didn't even care, yeah. So it was just for the network guys to see who they were going to be paying money to, basically. That was my experience. I don't know.
Similar. It was like I knew Eraserhead. I grew up like watching. I don't know why. I grew up like watching all these like alternative kind of movies and stuff, and I watched Eraserhead all the time, every year for some reason. And it was like, I want to put in that movie again. It's so weird, And then I saw The Elephant Man. So as I was growing up, I became a fan. And then, so I knew who he was. And I had no idea what he looked like. That's what most people, what their thing is, they have no idea what his presentation is or what he looks like or whatever. And so it was a shock for me. Same thing, Joanna Ray knew me from something else. She didn't cast me in. and then I came in, and I actually have a little ditty of sort of a story with it, is that he refused to see me. I think I was the last character to be cast because he hated my pictures. So for like half a year, they were going through all these pictures, and he would tell Joanna. Joanna kept insisting, if you want James, it's this guy. You gotta see, She kept insisting. So they couldn't cast it. He said that picture's a joke. It's pathetic. That's what it looks like. I don't want to see the guy. It looks like Tiger Beat magazine. Anyway, so they couldn't cast it, so he had me come in. And he finally gave up, threw his hands up and said, "Fine, you want me to see that guy or whatever, get it out." So I went in, and I was all excited because I was getting to meet David Lynch. I knew the character. It had a Harley Davidson involved with it, so I thought that was the neatest thing. And so anyway, went in. And I couldn't say it like, "You're David Lynch," but that's immediately what I felt, because he's like, this guy is like, tall dude who's very all-American, as you know. But when back then, nobody knew what he looked like or acted like or anything. And he just, it was just, when you watch Eraserhead in these movies, I kind of expected somebody more introverted and somebody a little less all-American and a little less, you just expect somebody who's a little bit of the genius, who's kind of the quiet number, maybe almost a little strange because of the stuff, and to have a guy just walk up, "Hey, how you doing?" Yeah, I did that. The whole like mutant baby thing, sure. So Yeah, that was it. And then same thing, I walked in and it was one of those things because I get nervous on auditions. So it was a great thing to be able to not read, you know, so to walk in and just and to sit down with him and just like really just chill. I remember the room being dark and small and I was sitting across from him. I think he had his hat on and we were just talking and he was like, and at the end of the thing, he looked at me and he said, well, and I was just inside, I was going, oh, this is so cool. I just think this guy is so freaking cool. And because I got jazzed meeting David Bowie and I got jazzed meeting him. And that was it. I haven't really freaked out on too many people. And with him, I was in the office freaking out, but trying not. Okay, well, see ya. And he goes, James, I think you got the part. And I went, oh, good, okay. You know, and I was like, oh, I couldn't believe it, you know, and I was like, we don't even have to read, like, what the fuck, you know? So I was like, this is so cool. So he goes, well, I want you to read, though. I go, oh, here we go, man. You know, and then he goes, just to come back with Donna, the girl who's playing Donna, I want you to meet her. I want to rehearse you because we're going to go in and we're going to read for the network. It's a technicality, but I do want you guys to be good. So we actually, and in my opinion, I think Lara Flynn Boyle would tell you guys this, I think we nailed it in the room better than anything we got it on film. I saw it. We did it, and then we were there for 6 hours, I think, in that room. And the rehearsal was set up for 45 minutes. And once he got us going, he saw what was happening, because me and her kicked it off right away. And we just met, and it was instantly like eye to eye, and instantly like, and it was like chemistry was really good. And it was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. We just sat in the room and he kept working it and going over it and going, okay, let's try this part now. And I was like, I think he's into this go. You know, so it was a neat thing. That whole period was really fun. Really cool time period. But yeah.
This was a trippy thing. When I was up there working on it now, I'm 48. I was 22 when we started the pilot. David was 44 when he shot the pilot. He's fucking younger than I am now. How'd that fucking
Copies.
Back then,
I looked old. Like a father figure.
He's old.
Father figure. Now I'm like 48. That's young as shit. It was crazy, man. It's like your perspective changes so much when you get older.
That reminds me, actually, something I was curious about. Did you sort of, having gone and shot again, did you approach it as a new character, or was it just like, oh, it's Bobby, I knew this guy, I'm just gonna slip right back in?
Yeah. I slipped right back in.
That's what I thought.
Can't really expand other than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say tricky.
It was tricky. Just getting back into that world was tricky, but it was beautiful. I mean, like Mason.
You're not gonna tell him about the fat suit?
Bobby got big. Spoiler alert, Bobby.
Yes.
Question to both of you guys. Can you tell us an experience of you guys working with Wendy Robie, and will she be returning to the new season?
I love Wendy. I don't know if she'll be back, but she's awesome, and I hope she will be. God, you know, Wendy was just always the sweetest thing, man.
Real
She was
nice.
just, I remember she had so much damn trouble with that patch, because you lose depth perception when you cover one eye, you don't, so she was always bumping into shit. But other than that, you know, she was just a really sweet lady, and I just loved her when, you know, she went for it. She went for it, you know. Just all my craziness with the mic stuff. She was the best. She had superhuman strength at one point, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any Wendy stories really like it, other than just what you just said, just hanging out. She's super, super nice.
Great lady.
We actually went, her and I went to, I forget what it was. It was a Twin Peaks thing. It had something to, it was an event, some huge event thing, an opening or something or other. And just for the photo op and stuff, we went as a couple. And I don't know if any of the super like ultra fans kind of know about it. It's kind of funny. It's me and Wendy. There's pictures of me and Wendy at the place as a couple, you know, as together. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's really fun.
Man.
That's your aunt. Yeah, I know. That's weird.
It's your aunt.
But working with her she was totally cool. She was like, we've had seen together a few times.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had to see her.
I don't think you did.
Ever.
It always disturbed me to walk around the set of her freaking place. Was the most disturbing set because yeah, she had tchotchkes that make this place look like, oh, you know, that's like little kid stuff. She had, because this was disturbing shit. She had like a figurine, like all these little figurines with like copper wire coming out of its heads and stuff, and just disturbing, painful looking crap all
Is
over
that a
the place.
David thing? Is that David? Did he make that stuff?
I don't know if he made it, but definitely, you know, somebody had a hand, you know, like, you know, and it was so disturbing because it was all over the place, and it was weird because I don't think the camera even picked up on most of it, you know what I mean?
I mean, they showed those figurines sometimes, but I don't remember seeing any of that weird stuff.
Yeah, the wires and all the, it was very painful, a lot of painfully looking stuff, you know? It's very, very over the top lady, obviously, so, yeah.
Why are you asking?
Oh, I just love Wendy Robie.
Right on.
Has anyone heard any rumors about whether she's? I haven't. Yeah, I know Everett McGill's hard to track down, so it's like.
Yeah,
maybe if,
Everett, man. I think he
don't
lives
think
in
he
like
had to-
Arizona now. I think he's retired.
Because I think even at one point David Lynch was seeking him out and went to social media.
Oh, really?
Hey, can anyone track down?
Yeah, Wendy was spotted on set.
Wendy was what?
She was spotted on set.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, she was actually locally cast too. She was not an LA actor.
Oh,
She
really?
was, like they did, like she was just, not to, so whatever, but not an LA actor. She was a woman who was like in Seattle, like doing plays and hanging out and being normal, and all of a sudden she got cast in this thing, and she was just grateful to be cast. Like, oh wow, this is neat, you know. And Cheryl Lee was the same thing. She was locally cast, and she was the same thing. She was like, wow, this is so neat. Next thing you know, it's like. So.
Yeah, Cheryl was like cast to be just the girl that was dead in plastic, and then they decided to shoot some like video, like her and Lara Flynn and you in that video, that stuff.
And that's how it started.
And then David fell in love, you know. It was a one. I mean, not fell in love, you know, he fell in love with her as a person. I don't want to start any rumors.
There's no questions because.
I'll ask another.
I'll ask some silly questions.
Did you guys feel, I know a lot of actors say they don't like to watch themselves. Did you feel compelled to look at any of the old show, knowing that the new one was coming along?
I didn't.
No.
I didn't, you know, I didn't know, I didn't think I needed to. I didn't think it would be relevant to go back in there and watch that stuff. I don't know. Nah.
No, for me it was definitely not, because I definitely didn't want to look at that hair again.
Why did they dye your hair? Why did they do that?
Well, it was
Badass.
It was a badass call on David's part at first, because what happened was when I met him, I came off of a military shoot, and I was bald, like completely like shaved, and he was like, we gotta cool up your hair. Like when your hair starts growing back, we're not gonna be able to James Dean your hair or whatever and slick it back and stuff, because you're not gonna have enough. What can we do? And then he thought about it, and he was like, would you mind dyeing your hair like jet black? Just to make it pop or something. And what ended up happening was my hair's, it's just, you know, fine hair, thin hair, so and it's blonde. So when I dyed it black, it gave it this funky sort of look, and when it grew out, it just became chia pet black hair. You know, so, and we had continuity things, so once it was established a certain cut, when I wanted to change the cut and go, you know guys, it's looking a little, they were like, it's already there, what we, you know, a little bit, can't do too much though, you know, so that's my part of, I won't look at the old stuff. And Fire Walk with Me was a bit of I liked the whole vibe of that. I think that was, honestly, we were talking about like Fire Walk with Me in the beginning of the first season was so much the quintessential crystallized Twin Peaks. That took me, and like I think a lot of other people, was like, that's the flavor right there, you know. So
As an experience or as watching it?
Watching it. For me, just as an experience for everybody, the whole thing's neat. But I'm saying for me, the authentic vibe, you know, is Fire Walk with Me and the first bunch of episodes, especially the pilot.
Well, Peggy Lipton said somewhere in some DVD that, I'm paraphrasing, but she said, you know, the series is about what's bubbling underneath, and Fire Walk with Me is about it just boiling over. And she it was insinuating that was left a bad taste in her mouth. So.
Well, it was just like, you know, it got to go to what led up to the surface, I thought. You know, it was like going down into the depths and you get to see what the hell was going on with Laura and Donna and the scene that they're going off at night.
Well, it's a film, so you show certain things.
Right. But even expanding in that world and seeing what they were into, you know, you get a handle, you get a feel of it from like the One-Eyed Jack stuff, but that was always kind of sterile compared to what really was going, like that scene.
Well, yeah, it was TV, right?
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
But, yeah, that, to me, that's a testimony to Mark's, where Mark comes in. Because I think that still, for me, because to me, it's like he's a virtuoso guitar player, David Lynch. Like, as a director, he's like, to me, like a virtuoso, right? So if you have this, what Mark did was, it's kind of like compression, if you're into music. Mark is the compressor. Mark, fine, you know, okay, get it now and here. Don't do that, but do this, and then let's guide it over here. And it did something so neat and so different to it that way when the drama of David's stuff and the effectiveness of David's stuff popping up here and there in this, what we call strangeness or weirdness or whatever, what I call normal life. It's like life is weird enough. But it doesn't get metered right. I shouldn't say that. It doesn't get metered the way Twin Peaks is Mark and David. It's not just David. That's why I think I agree with you in a sense. But it's a funny thing because it's David. David's still, my thing is if David's not involved in it at all, it's not there. But if Mark's not there when David's involved, it's not the same thing. But it's the same gemstone. You don't get that gemstone. Oh, that's why I say it's Fire Walk With Me. Because even though it needed to be reined in a little here and there if you wanted to keep it in the same realm, it had its essence. It has its Twin Peaks truest essence. The soul of Twin Peaks was there completely. And the soul of Twin Peaks was in the pilot and in the episodes that David directed. So I just am like, but again, like what you said about Fire Walk With Me, Mark, that just shows you how much Mark's input affected the situation. And without that kind of compression, it's not the same show, and it definitely takes on a darker, murkier, kind of thing. So, which is still really cool, but you're right, it's not the same.
I'm assuming you guys saw the missing pieces stuff. Are you familiar with it? Have you seen it?
I went to the premiere of it.
Yeah.
Or the thing, Dana was on it.
For the Firewalk missing pieces stuff?
He was in New York at the time, so he did go.
I didn't see it, but I have it, but I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched it?
No, I haven't.
I've
heard about it.
I was curious what your thoughts were on it, and if there was stuff, I know that there was more stuff still that wasn't even included on there.
God, I don't know.
I was curious if you guys had any remembrance.
I heard that they put all pretty much everything that was cut out of my stuff. It's on the
Of your
it's
stuff,
on
right.
the DVD from the movie.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I didn't know if you had any memory of other stuff that wasn't on there. I know that there was some stuff with other people.
I've only heard what's on there, so I know there's some great stuff with Norma and Ed, and like there's some amazing, like touching, really emotional scenes between them, and then there's like they changed a little bit of the storyline of my storyline in the movie, which they made the bag of Coke actually a bag of Coke instead of it was gonna be like a bad drug deal. It was baby powder, but they just changed it and left it to being a bag of Coke, and that's why I shot the guy.
We just rewatched it last night. It's incredible. I was just curious.
Yeah, that was really fun to do that thing. Yeah, it was fun.
You love your baby laxative type of camp.
Yeah.
You're very flexible,
How you
too.
use baby laxative.
Hey, that's the body. He knows his stuff.
How did the episode of Psych come about, and any things you could say of shooting that and kind of getting some of the cast back together?
Yeah, well, the guy, James O'Day, the lead guy from Psych, he was a huge Twin Peaks fan, and I met him in like the 90s. He was doing a TV series, and I guest starred on it, and he geeked out and was like, hey, I really like Twin Peaks. I was in elementary school and I used to dress up like you and all this. And so anyone that likes me, I like them back. And so we became friends, and then we just became friends. We worked together quite a few times, and then he got Psych, and he was trying to do an episode with just like bringing me and Machen back. It's just having us be two different characters but be together as a couple as like a little thing, you know, which I thought would have been great. But then it kind of escalated. They did so much of this on the show where they did tributes to like Hitchcock and all these different people, and then they did this tribute to Twin Peaks, and they decided to write that. And so I had already been like, yeah, let's do it. And so I was really like, yeah, let's do it. Machen was like, yeah, no. So Machen didn't do it, but you know, it was fun. It was fun to see. Like I hadn't seen God. It was great to see Cheryl Lee. We stayed in contact, but I hadn't seen her for a while, and it was great to see Cheryl, and I hadn't seen her, and then you know Lenny and Robin I haven't seen since the show. I mean, I hadn't even been in contact at all. So it was fun, you know. It was fun. It was sweet. Psych is just silly, you know. It's a little, you know, little piece of candy. They wanted James to do it too, by the way, but we couldn't get him.
Yep.
I tried.
I was unavailable. I was just working so much.
He was smart. Sorry.
No, at the time I was like, it was like a strange feeling for me to, I almost did it, and then I was like, and I wanted to work, you know, and I kept feeling like, originally, it was you and Nation, you said?
Well, that was like the idea that he had, but then it ended up being like.
But to me, that's like cool. If you have a wink with like a couple of actors from Twin Peaks, and it's kind of cool, you know what I mean? So it was just, I don't know. It just felt weird to me. It felt like a reunion of Gilligan's Island-y kind of feeling. Like,
it had a little of
they
that.
were taking Twin Peaks and putting it into it, that kind of thing. But it still was cool and everything. It just, I kept thinking, like, that's what got me. And then, see, part of me even now wishes sort of I did it just for the heck of it, you know. Just, but it's like, I don't know. I was like, I just didn't know. It just felt kind of weird. You know? So, but.
It was.
In other words, I thought to myself, would David want me to go do that? And it felt to me like I could picture him going, I don't know, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, as soon as Cheryl Lee was doing it, I was like, Cheryl Lee, she's the gold standard for me on the show. You know what I mean? I mean, really, she's the face of the show. Her and Kyle.
I agree.
Cheryl Lee.
I agree. I always think of the people I remember. You, when I think of Twin Peaks, I think of Cheryl Lee, Kyle, you, and Sherilyn, the Log Lady, and Lucy. That's what I think of Twin Peaks. But yeah, Psych. Nobody else.
Well, I'd love for you both to talk about
one person.
Oh, yes.
Are there any cast members that you didn't get a chance to work with in the original 2 seasons that you hope to have scenes with in the new episodes?
Actually, for me, it was fun. Oh, okay. You good? Okay.
You have anybody get hurt?
I mean, you know, I don't know. I'd like to do something with Gordon Cole. Like, I never got to like work with David as an actor, and that would be fun, I think. I don't even know if Gordon Cole's even a thing anymore, but if he did come back,
I always wanted one scene with Peggy Lipton, which is like, we kind of did have exchange, almost like I go in the diner and little, like, but like a really good scene with Peggy Lipton, because she was pretty much my first crush when I was in Mod Squad. I remember being like, I won't say what age I was because it pisses her off. But I was like, little kid looking at Mod Squad going, I really like her. So,
I mean, that's Peggy. Looks amazing.
Yeah,
That
she really
70
does.
looks like, yeah.
Dude, she's
70
gorgeous still.
and hot as hell. Honestly.
Yeah, we're gonna see her.
I mean, she's in those commercials right now. If you're seeing them, the daughter for like internet or something. Like it's about internet at your house, and she goes over to her daughter's house, and her daughter's Rashida Jones. If you guys know that, I don't know if you know that. Pretty cool. I mean, you were with those kids. Remember? You remember when they would come to the set? They had races and little tiny.
Oh yeah.
Rashida and Kadada.
Yeah.
Your memories of Jack Nance.
I used to kind of like get to shoot the shit with him between stuff a lot, because he would always come walking up or we'd meander, and I have like, you know, we took pictures on the set like for the first year or so. We were all excited while I was taking pictures, and I had Jack like leaning against. I had a personal motorcycle at the time. It's just funny, a lot. And he was in a robe, like he was dressed to, you know, to go to bed, you know, in the scene that he was doing. So he was like in a robe, all cozy, ready to go to bed, leaning against this monstrous Hurley, acting like a badass in a robe with a like that. But he'd walk up, and he had the funniest delivery, and he had the funniest take on things as a guy, you know, as a person. It was like, he could get you cracking up, like just, I would fall on without him, come walking up, and I can't remember exactly the stuff he would say. It was just his delivery and his way and stuff. I'd come walking up and start talking, and after I got used to talking to him, I was like, okay, at one point am I gonna not be able to stop laughing here? Go on, and no, he hasn't hit me yet, he hasn't hit me with anything yet. Suddenly, and it would sometimes be just an expression, he'd turn and look at me and go, and I just lose it, you know. It's like, you know, he just, and David, I think that's what David loved about him too, in a way, because Jack had this, you know, he just had this, he really did, he didn't talk like over the top like that regularly, like, oh, like all that, but he did have a way with him where he'd look at you and go, he had a subtlety like, that you couldn't believe. He'd just look at you and just like, you know, girl would walk by and he'd look at the girl and look at you and go, oh. He was like that, so he was a lot of fun. We hung out actually a lot on the set when we worked the same days.
And we went over to his house, remember, for dinner and watched Eraserhead.
No, I wasn't there. Yeah. You're blowing it because I wasn't invited.
You and me. Me and Laura. I mean, it was.
No, if I watched Eraserhead at his house, I would have
I could have been. I thought it was you guys for sure. But anyway, I went to their house, and Charlotte and Jack used to live together. The woman that played my mom and Jack were roommates at the time of the show. And they had me over for dinner, and I thought, oh, you and Mark Flynn, man.
No.
Oh, well. Yeah, great dinner. So much fun. And we watched Eraserhead, and we also watched like this movie that David directed called The Cowboy and the Frenchman, which I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It was really obscure, and it was like the French government paid 4 directors, an American, English, like a Dutch, and another nationality, to do a 5-minute film on their country's relation, you know, with France, like an Anglo, you know, American-France relationship, or Italian. I think Bertolucci did it. It was like a bunch of famous directors. And Lynch took the money they had, and instead of making a 5-minute movie, he made a 20-minute movie. And it stars Harry Dean Stanton, and it was Michael Horse, met him, that was when Michael Horse met him, and it's about like this French guy and a bunch of cowboys. It's really, really bizarre, and there's floating heads singing in the sky, and there's women in bouffant hair singing, and these cowboys are all like leaning on like a fence post, and they see like this guy out in the field with like a suitcase and a little suit, and he's like picking up stuff on the ground, and can't figure out what the hell they gotta do. And there's an Indian, Michael Horse, with a full headdress, and they're all just hanging out, and it's a Frenchman, like in the field, like some Frenchman, like, and he opens up his suitcase and he has like a baguette, and he has some French fries, and like some brie. He has like all these like really iconic French. It's just bizarre. And he was out there, and they asked him what he was picking up, and he was picking up snails, of course, because you know, French guys. So it's amazing. And I just actually revisited it when I was up there. I talked to a couple. I can't say it. I revisited it when I was up there. But it's really cool if you ever get a chance to Cowboy and the Frenchman. It's bizarre. Jack showed it to me.
Is that grief is so real in the first 2 episodes, especially. Like most films and TV shows, it seems like when somebody dies, they cut straight to the funeral. And the fact that they just like went through everybody's reactions and everybody finding out about it, like I honestly have to turn it off after the first like 2 episodes because I don't know, I've had a best friend die, so it's just like so emotionally draining to watch that. And it's so much more realistic than I've ever seen any show before or since portray grief and finding out that somebody's died. Just wondering, as actors, is that, were those scenes emotionally exhausting, or?
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, you know, it's like, but that's what we do. I mean, shit. That's what we live for. You know, I do. It's like, you know, to be able to try and feel that and get that out there and be able to convey like that sadness. That's sort of like, that's what makes it all worth it. You know, it's like to be able to connect to that. If you can, it's hard. You know, it's hard to do, but Laura from Boyle, man, in the pilot, she was fucking brilliant. I think she was a great actress in those early
sitting in the
days.
classroom.
Just brilliant. That and just all the scenes with her and James and all that stuff was
She's
so
very
believable.
good. She was very good.
So
Like,
good.
no kidding good.
The scene with her dad and her in the car too, and she's
He'd be like, Laura, cry. She'd go, instantly.
Yeah.
Really talented woman.
LFB. Yeah, that's, you know, it's like, but that's, as actors, that's what we want to do, you know?
I agree with you though. That's like what small towns are like. That's why I think the show struck such a chord. One of the reasons was because it dealt with things that were like that. I mean, when you have a child pass away in a small town, which I had that in New Jersey when I was growing up, and man, things stopped, man. They stopped. You know, it was like we lost a little boy. And it was like, you know, it was like everybody just kind of went. Need people who didn't even know him, were just like, hero, yeah, we don't. You know what I mean? And I think it's a neat thing to have that now because everything is so desensitized. And like you said, they just go from here to here to here, which is, you know, I think spiritually almost does something. I think that's what great art is for, is to, without, you don't have to do yoga and meditation and all this other stuff. With great art, it kind of gives it to you, you know what I mean? You know, it's a natural meditation, you know, a natural reconnection. So, yeah.
What was your guys' initial reaction to like how season 2 ended when you read the script like come out?
Season 2?
Yeah.
The end?
Yeah.
God, shit. I think at the end of it, I think me and Machen, didn't we say we were gonna get married or something? I don't really remember. I haven't rewatched the second season in a long time. But I think at the end we were like, I think we're gonna get married or something, right? Anybody? No? So, you know, I think we all knew it was over at that point. I mean, we didn't think it was going to be coming back. So I thought it was always just like we were kind of trying to set it up for people to be able to have like, oh, at least Bobby and Shelley, right? Or whatever, you know. What happened at the end to your character? Like, where were you?
I was probably at some woman's house somewhere. Further burying my, you know, quality of, you know, personhood. But no, I don't know. I don't know what I thought. I guess you're asking about sort of like to the essence of just Bob, like how we got the answer to the whole thing, and how it got tied up as this demon that took the dad over, and it turns out the dad was molesting her the whole time, and that kind of thing. And I thought it was ballsy as hell on one hand, and on the other hand, it was, and it was just the way David Lynch would wrap up a thing. It was exactly what, you know, but I don't know what I wouldn't have known what to do with it, that's for sure. I wouldn't have known what to do with it, so I liked it. I could have gone several different ways, you know, and I liked what he did. I thought it was freaking, I mean, how he certainly took something that's inflammatory as hell and made you magnetize to it, you know. So, yeah, I thought the ending was effective as hell, but it was, you know, it was the dad with the daughter, so it's also painful as hell, you know, the whole thing. But, you know, I just think the guy, I do think he is brilliant. I do think he comes, I like, just to manifest that at the end. Because if you are sitting there thinking about it as a writer, going, we've got what, we got this, we got Laura Palmer didn't say that she was like this, or she was like this, and we're having her schizophrenic, this and this, and what do we do? And how do we tie? And then suddenly, you know, it's a demon. Okay, you know, wild. Because you're guessing at who? Nobody. How can it be nobody? Because it's the devil. You know? So, pretty interesting, pretty cool.
For so many viewers, Twin Peaks and fans, it was an education in film history. There's references to 30s screwball comedy, 40s, 50s film noir, 60s avant-garde, and on, which took us to lots of different ends of the internet and video stores to kind of understand the references, and still to this day. But on set at the time, did it prove to be a similar education? Did it draw you to other forms of art or other films or other filmmakers or other hobbies that you wouldn't have otherwise maybe encountered?
Mark Frost is a smart dude. Mark Frost is really, really smart. Like, knows a lot of history, especially about Los Angeles history and just sports, all sorts of history. He's like prolific. He writes books all the time, and he has a lot of knowledge in that man. And it's impressive, and it's fascinating to talk to him. Things you just never even knew about. And like that always, like I always felt like that intelligent aspect of Mark is a real aspect of Cooper. In that when Cooper's interested about when he talks about there's 3 things I want to know, whatever that was. It was like one of them was Marilyn Monroe, who killed Marilyn Monroe, who killed JFK, or it was like something like that. And I always found that really cool that Cooper was still interested in solving these great mysteries, and it's just like he's a thinker, and Mark's a thinker, and so I don't really know what the question was, but that's just Mark reminds me of Cooper in that way. And then David's like when he's in all over the trees and the snowshoe rabbit and all that stuff. That's David. That's David. You know what I mean? So Cooper's this amazing
amalgamation.
And when he says there's not one without the other, it's so true. It's both of them. I mean, it really is. The alchemy that is created when they are doing their thing together is awesome. And they I talked to Mark a little bit about how they wrote, and they talked for 6 months, wrote for a year, talked for 6 months, and finished it for 6 months. It was a big process, of them doing
The new one? That was a process for the new one?
Yeah, for the new one. I don't know what their writing process is. I always want to ask, who sits there? Who's doing the writing? Who's
What's that room
yeah, what is going on there? Are you drinking wine? Are you guys hanging out?
Mushrooms?
What is going on? But I'm too shy to ask because I don't want to. I almost don't want to know. You know what I mean? I don't know if they tell you. I don't know.
Oh, he'd be like Dave would be like, I don't type.
I just can't imagine David sitting there typing while Mark's pacing. It's got to be the other way around, right?
Good time for 1 or 2 more.
Do you think David's maturity as a director will have a noticeable impact on the style versus the original series?
I have no idea.
His impact as a director?
Maturity. Like the way he's grown over the 25 years.
It'd be interesting to see. I'd be willing to bet you you're gonna see some kind of slightly different spice, I bet you, but I'd also want to bet you it's gonna be, tigers don't change their stripes, and he will, I'm sure it'll be the same, only probably a little bit spiced because he's got, this much more experience and this much more stuff going on. He's a different guy now a little bit, in the respect of his view of life, I'm sure, so, because we all, view of life expands, as we get older, or goes smaller, depending on his, definitely, I'm sure, expanded, so.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's it's modern. It's like almost like the original show wasn't in a modern time. You know what I mean? Because there's no cell phones. It's like.
Well, the thing about it was too, it was timeless though, right? Because you could almost stick a cell phone in the middle of that show, and it really wouldn't change it. It doesn't, what I mean?
No computers or anything.
Not at all. And it was the 50s. It was like the 40s. It was like Cooper reminds me of that whole GI guy with the 1930s. So I had this 30s, 40s, 50s, dosed with modern era. So.
I'll be interested to see what the new one, the vibe is. You know what I mean? Honestly, who knows? Honestly, I mean, it's a lot. It's gonna be so much.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 months of shooting and then a year of post. I mean, it's a lot of work ahead of. Who knows? Well, I might be cut out. I might not even.
Really, it's true.
No.
Here we are all talking, and it's possible you could have
in the DVD.
I have 3 lines.
Yeah, I'll be in the DVD cutouts.
All right, one last one.
Were there any big differences for you, acting-wise, in filming on location versus filming
acting-wise, filming on location or in studio. Honestly, maybe I'm a weaker actor. I honestly love filming in Washington. Like, I'm jealous, you know. It's like that whole experience was almost like is a character on the show itself. And the vibe. Again, maybe I'm not using my acting muscle to create my own environment, all that shit. But I tell you, when you're, because I was talking to someone the other day. I was talking to this. I take the motorcycle. Was it you or something? You take the motorcycle. When I was first, you know, learning the bike and stuff, because I've ridden dirt bikes and stuff, but never, you know, a huge street bike like that and stuff. So I was getting used to it and stuff. The funny thing, and David, every time I passed, because I was getting used to it right on the set as we were shooting stuff, and I'd slow down. He would be careful on that bike chain, like every time. Be careful on that. I'm stressing David out. You gotta stop. But I would tool around the town and stuff, and the funniest part was like the diner and stuff was all dressed. It was all ready for us, so I was like, I went by it, and I was actually checking out locations really without meaning to, you know, because, you know, I was riding with guys, and I, you know, people on the back sometimes, and they'd be like, well, there's a diner, yeah, we were there yesterday, you know, and they put somebody on my back with a walkie-talkie, because they learned that I gotta go back. But they point out, oh, that's all dressed, that's us, and that's us right there. That's also us, you know, and that's all fake, you know. And I'm like, wow, and that's not normally the double R isn't there. Normally it's this and that. And I'm like, oh wow, so that neon is okay. You know. Anyway, it's just cool because you literally it's a gift as an actor, because then you're riding around in the environment, you literally bring that vibration in, and if you can do that and then bring it into the scene as you're doing it, it does lay a thing. I shot something in New York like that too, where verbatim, you could see it in the scenes when I would do this, you could see the differences, because I would, it was a very low budget movie, so we didn't have trailers and stuff, so we would literally hang out on the sidewalk, and we were shooting all in the streets and stuff, in a car and out of the car, and, you know, our little movie company it was a lot of people, but, you know, not like huge. So I would wander off and just stand on the corner and wait for them to call me, but I'd get people coming up going, what are they shooting over there? You know, and I'm like, oh, it's this low, but I'd be like, oh, it's a slow budget thing, I don't know what the fuck it is. I'd go into and I was playing Italian, so I'd go into Italian New York, and they didn't know that as soon as I was just bullshitting with them, became part of it. Okay, James, we need you. I go on, and just bring that right in, man, and it's just ease, you know, you bring in that whole rhythm. It's the same thing as listening to music. When you listen to music before takes, the certain right kind of music, it can change your performance so much, it helps so much, so it's the same sort of thing, yeah. That's why it's like, I love shooting up there. It's so cool. It's a beautiful place to work.
We like hearing it. All right, we are unfortunately out of time. Please do come say hi, get your picture taken, get something signed over at the tables. Thanks, you guys. Those are some great things.